All right, welcome to the Zone Live. This is the first playoff edition. We did finish up the regular season last week, and now we're moving into what they call the games that counts. This is a little different today. We're in a new studio here. We'll call it a studio. It's the former business editor's office, but changed it up a little bit. Got my partner George Whitley back for a second week to my left. And we got Reese Gordon to my right. Reese is a staff writer here at the News Journal, big-time football fan. Invited him along. Our guys, Hayden Henry and Brandon Ogden, are out getting ready to cover games tonight. We'll talk about their games later. Great weekend, guys, in high school football. I mean, this is what it's all about. Just that playoff atmosphere. A lot of teams, to the playoffs this year. Hadn't been in a while. We'll talk about that, about a game there that's of great interest. Just, I don't know, your thoughts on this time. George, you've done a lot of these with me. George has been in the business about as long as I have. What are your thoughts on this time of year?
Oh, this is the best time of year. This is what the kids get sweaty for and bruise up in the August heat to play in November and December. And, these teams, only the survival of the fittest at this point. Teams that, if the cream truly rises to the top, which it generally does at playoff time, you're going to start seeing some real good football games as the playoffs move past the by-district round into the area and on into the regional. So it's a great time. The weather's changing. It's actually turning into football weather here in East Texas. We don't get football weather very, very, very long during the season. So great time. One-game seasons from here on out for everybody.
Exactly. Reese had a chance to go to Union Grove last night for their bonfire. We'll talk about their game in a little bit, but the Lions are in the playoffs, first time since 1968. Very exciting. Tell us about your experience here last night.
That was really exciting, mainly because you got to see one of the former players a long time ago, Randy Davis, was able to light the bonfire by firing a black powder shotgun into a gunpowder laced trench, which it ended up rising up to the I guess all the debris that they had that they lit on fire. It was something else, but I mean, just the atmosphere out there it made you excited for these kids because, I mean, when you haven't been to the playoffs in 45 years, that whole community takes on that it's almost like a burden. I mean, you just get it off your back. So.
Right. And nothing says East Texas like guns, football, and fire. So we're ready to go there. Well, let's get into some games. We'll talk about tonight's games first. George is actually going to leave here and go straight to a game. He's going out to Lobo Stadium. He's going to see a pretty decent game tonight. Paul Pewitt and ARP. Paul Pewitt is just one of those teams. They're in the playoffs. I mean, you can just write them down. They might start slow. They don't do anything fancy. I looked at their stats. I think they've thrown 31 passes this season. That's about a half for some of these teams. Gilmer and some of these teams. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I was kidding Brandon Ogden this morning when we were tweeting each other, and I told him I hope to file this story by 9 o'clock. It kicks off at 7. ARP runs the ball a lot, and of course Paul Pewitt runs the ball pretty much exclusively. You're looking at a 7-3 Paul Pewitt team. They've won 4 in a row, and you've got ARP, who's 6-4, but they've won 5 in a row. Both teams are playoff season, very good teams, and they actually met 69 days ago on the second game of the season, and Paul Pewitt won 28-27. So I have no reason to expect we're not going to have a great ball game at Lobo Stadium. So if you've got time and you ain't got anything going on tonight, Lobo Stadium will be a good playoff game to come watch.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a good game. We've got a couple others. Hayden Henry is heading over to Tyler to Trinity Mother Francis Rose Stadium. He's going to watch the Gilmer Buckeyes and the Mineola Yellow Jackets. Probably a monumental mismatch here, I believe, with Gilmer, a 9-1 team, sitting at the top spot in the rankings until last week, until they lost to Kilgore. Mineola, 5-5, but hey, you're in the playoffs, and they had to do something to get in the playoffs. So, I don't know. It could be a blowout, and I kind of expect that. But I know that Coach Drennan in Mineola is a veteran coach. He's gonna have some tricks up his sleeve. But Gilmer's just they're hard to stop. I don't know if you've seen them this year, Reese. You saw them.
I just know that they're year in, year out, they seem to be a great football team. And on top of that, they're coming off of a loss. And, I mean, you know that they're ready. As soon as that game ended against Kilgore, I mean, a hard-fought game, you know that sometimes a loss can be a bigger motivator and maybe can propel them into another long run into the playoffs.
Right. Gilmer doesn't lose very often, and they probably don't take very kindly to it. So, and just again, a solid football team. So, we'll see what happens on that one. The other games we're going to be Brandon Ogden. He's usually here with us. He is heading over to Lindale, and he's going to cover Canton and Gladewater. And great story with Gladewater. I mean, this is great to see him in the playoffs again. Coach Jared Ball came from Longview. He took over Gladewater program. He's got him in the playoffs. Yeah, just and they had to win a game, and it was, I can't even remember the score of the game, guys, but it's 49-42 or something like that. When you have a blue chip 5-star recruit, Dalen Mack scoring a touchdown for you. He's a big defensive lineman. Kid's carried, I believe, 12 times this year. He has 6 touchdowns. So, he does it all for them. Just, the excitement for the Bears getting in there, playing a Canton team that's 4-6, but let me tell you, they can put up some points. Their quarterback, Connor Island, it's E-I-L-A-N-D, and I apologize for mispronouncing it, but I've written the name several times. The Canton likes to throw the ball around. Gladewater likes to run the ball. So, should be a good game there. And then the one we touched on just a little bit is the Wascom and Union Grove. This one's at 7 o'clock over in Hallsville. Again, you got time to get out and see some of these games if you want to. Wascom's 10-0. The Wildcats, I think, shocked a lot of people. I picked them, so I'm not shocked that they won the game last week against Hugh Springs. But I think they shocked some people the way they won that game.
Convincing as they did, sure. I'm with you. I picked Hugh Springs up before I knew McKinney was out, and I probably would have stayed with it anyway because I just felt like Hugh Springs brought that physical brand of football. They were going to take the ball and run it, but Wascom just beat them real well. Right. So Whitney Keelan's got them rolling right now, and Coach Roger Adams haven't got their work cut out for them tonight, but I guarantee you, Union Grove they'll show up.
Exactly.
Well, what's really crazy is that we were talking about 45-year drought for Union Grove. Well, Wascom hasn't been in the playoffs since 1992, so it's not like they've been there every year. But at 10-0, I mean, you've got to think that they're. I mean, that's the record. You are what your record says you are. And 10-0, on paper, this looks like a mismatch, and it might end up being that way. But at the same time, you never know. I mean, the Union Grove Lions might come out and shock them.
Yeah, Union Grove's got some athletes. I don't know. Speed-wise, I think is what worries me about this game. Is just Wascom from 3 different guys. They've got a chance tonight, by the end of the night, to have 3 different kids with 1,000 yards rushing. So they're not
teams
bad.
are liable to bring basketballs up, not since it's been so long since they've been in the playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah, it's basketball season usually this time of year for them. Well, that's the bulk of the games tonight that we've got. There's a few others, but let's move on to Friday and Saturday, and let's go ahead and start at the top of the list. We'll go to a Saturday game, talk about the Longview Lobos. I talked to Hayden before he left. He was giving me a few pointers on the Lobos. The couple of things that he brought up. Number one, they're healthy. Dorian Leonard's a little banged up. There's a blue chip receiver, but I think he's going to be fine. Jamichael Hasty is healthy. That's a big plus for the Lobos. He said that probably the biggest concern that the Lobos have right now is just they haven't been tested in about 6 weeks now. They just destroyed the teams in their district. Some good teams. I mean, that shocked me a little bit, the ease in which Longview rolled through that district. I mean, these are some teams that have put up some crazy points, incredible athletes. I mean, kids signed scholars or verbal commitments all over the place in this district, and Longview just mistreated them. I mean, they just took it to them, every opponent.
Kind of tells you how good Capel is, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, the Longview's first loss there. That gives you an idea of that. But I think Longview wins this one probably as much as they want to win it. I know they're worried a little bit about not having been tested and all that, but I think Lobos take care of business here. The other thing is they're playing at Kincaid Stadium. That is Lobo West, John King Stadium, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they are 9-0 at this stadium. They have not lost there. I don't know why anybody would even play them at Kincaid, but should be a good one there. We've got some great games. Just touching on a few more. Marshall is back in the playoffs. He's sitting with a 3-7 record, but the thing that jumps out to me on this one, and Hayden, he loved saying this. John King, after the Lobos played Marshall early in the season, John King said that's going to be a playoff team. So Hayden reminded him of that later on, and John King's response was, if I tell you tomorrow's Easter, dye your eggs. So John King knows what he's talking about. And, Marshall has won the games they needed to win. They've been on a little bit of a roll, and they've got athletes all over the field. So they may do some damage in the playoffs.
Well, Coach Harper's done a great job, and being a Marshall guy, coming back home. It started a little slow for him. I saw his first game against
Right.
Kilgore, and
Exactly.
they got shut out that night, or 42-7, I believe. But you're exactly right. Those 3 wins have come recently,
Right.
and they're a much better team than they were August 31st.
Exactly.
And Wiley better be on edge. They can't sleep on him.
No,
That's for sure.
absolutely. And, Wiley's 6-4. They haven't exactly lit up the world there. So we've got some other good games. Georgia's going to be covering Kilgore again. Kilgore versus Van. That's a game at 7 o'clock tomorrow night in Lindale. The Bulldogs, you've seen them all year long. Van started the season, I believe, 0-6, including a loss to Pine Tree early on. That everybody's like, wow, and didn't realize how the Pine Tree had improved a little, and Van was, everybody's like, wow, they must have dropped. But I've seen all year long. I compile the statistics that you see on ET Varsity and in the zone. They've got some kids putting up some great numbers. They obviously have some great athletes. The quarterback throws the ball well. They have a running back, Matt Savis, S-A-V-I-S. Kids, he's averaging probably 180, 190 a game rushing. So they've got some athletes, but I don't know if they can hang with Kilgore.
I mean, can they move the ball on Kilgore with the kind of athletes that Kilgore has on defensive line? You look at LaDarren Anthony, and he's come on. I've seen a lot on him lately. I mean, 63 tackles, 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. I mean, you're going to have to, with Kilgore, you're going to have to really go at them. I mean, they're a physical team. I mean, they beat Gilmer, and that says it all right there. I mean, if you can go in and beat a team like that, that means that you've got some serious talent, and that's going to be a huge struggle for Van to come away with a win.
They're going to need a truck, not
Yeah.
a van.
There you go. There you go.
Kilgore is on clicking right now.
Yeah,
And,
they're a solid team, top to bottom. A couple other games. Carthage had the week off last week. Those are one of those, could go either way. Any nicks and bruises you got, those get healed up a little bit. But they were on a pretty decent roll before they took that week off. They're going to play Mahia. That game's at 7:30 Friday night in Rusk. Again, look for the Bulldogs just rolling that one. We mentioned Gilmer earlier against Mineola. That one's tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun. Which one you point out, Georgia?
Athens Chapel Hill is going to be an interesting game.
Exactly.
I think Athens comes in undefeated, and they're having a great year. Probably one of their best years in recent memory. I remember a Chapel Hill team though back in 1989 that finished 6-4 in the regular season and went on and won state. That was under Dickie Meeks. And I'm not saying this Chapel Hill team's destined to play in Jerry World, but I'm picking Chapel Hill to win that game.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Athens is 10-0, and they are scary because, again, you look at numbers. They've got some just incredible athletes. I believe they're 10-0. That's the first time in school history they've won 10 games like that. But Chapel Hill, we've talked about it several times. Their losses have come to great football teams. I mean, they've lost to Carthage, they lost to Gilmer, they lost to Kilgore. They're a really solid football team, so I wouldn't be surprised there. Obviously, there's several other games we didn't get to, but we're kind of running out of time. Just want to remind you, we are going to do the Zone Live every Thursday for the rest of the season. They'll take us right up to Christmas, so please join us 5:30 every Thursday. These guys may come back. We may have Hayden and Brandon back. They may boot me to the curb and they just take over. Who knows? But it'll be on here. We'll talk some football. We'll welcome your questions. The zone issue in the newspaper, we're done with that for this season. We're not putting that in the paper anymore, but all of that information will still be in the newspaper, including statistics, and all of that information, thanks to Amy and Scott, will be online on etvarsity.com. So everything you need to know about the high school football playoffs, it's going to be, it'll be in the Longview News Journal and on etvarsity.com. So pick it up and click it up, as they like to say. Guys, thanks for being here, and join us again next week.